Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I am the CHALL, and today, Chall Chats the NBA. Dallas Mavericks 105 to 101 against the Thunder in Game 3. They now lead the series 2-1, and let's see what happens for the rest of this series. In today's video, we're going to be chatting about the game last night. We're going to share my thoughts on it, share some stats, share some analysis, and also what's next for both teams going into their next game in a couple of days' time in Game 4, another game in Dallas. So before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers and 500,000 views. Let's get there as soon as possible, please. And for now, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, let's talk about the 105 to 101 victory for Dallas Mavericks as they lead the series 2-1 over Oklahoma City Thunder. So we first go into the lineup, starting with the travelling side, the Oklahoma City Thunder. A great starting five as always. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the point guard position, Josh Giddey in the shooting guard role, Luguentzic Dort in the small forward role with Jalen Williams as the power forward, and at the centre was Chet Holmgren. Your starting five for the Dallas Mavericks on home turf, Luka Doncic in the point guard role, alongside the shooting guard Kyrie Irving, the small forward Derrick Jones Jr. with PJ Washington Jr. at the power forward role, and Daniel Gafford in the centre role. So let's first of all talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you know what? There's an element of what might have been about their performance overall. For me, it started off quite slow. The three-ball combination didn't really work for me. They were lacking in offensive quality. It got to a point where, some time into the game, the offensive flow started to get there. It took quite a bit to get into it, but you know what? They got back into their flow. They got into the swing of things. The rhythm sort of grew more and more. There was a moment, especially in the second quarter, I think the Mavericks got absolutely dominated on the paint, and they needed to rethink their strategy. I think Oklahoma City Thunder were dominating them on the paint. For me, I think the guy who made the main difference off the bench, especially in the first 10 minutes of coming on, was Isaiah Joe. So these stats were just from the first 10 minutes off the bench for Isaiah. 10 minutes, 10 points, 2 out of 2 two-pointers, 2 out of 2 three-pointers, 100% 4 out of 4 on the field goals rate as well. I mean, this guy made an instant, if you could define instant impact, that right there is Isaiah Joe. He was all over off the bench, and he put in a great shift coming off the bench, especially in those first 10 minutes. I thought overall he was good, but off the bench in those first 10 minutes, he was electric, and that defined an instant impact. For me, another player that had a great game was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I thought he was all over. I thought his movement, his drive, his energy, he was the main man keeping that team going. And you know what? For me, he's the hope for Oklahoma. I think it was one of those by the end of the game where the fans just sort of said online, let's just get to Game 4 now. We pretty much know we're going to lose this one with about a minute or so to go. Let's focus on Game 4. Let's get straight into this and just focus towards the fourth game. Get that series tied back. And that's what Oklahoma need to do. I could see at the start the three-ball combination not working. I could see the flow improving in the second quarter. I could see him really dominating the paint. And you know what? That's one of the main focuses here for Oklahoma going into Game 4. Dominate the paint, because Mavericks didn't have a clue to start off with on the paint. They were really dominated, annihilated early in that game. The Mavericks found a way to increase their flow. We'll talk about them in a moment. But for me, Oklahoma dominated the paint to start off with, and that's going to be one of their main focuses going into Game 4. Dominate the paint, isolate Irving, isolate Doncic, and get the ball rolling. Oklahoma, for me, have got the potential to tie this series. They've got the potential to even win this series. But they've got to improve their three-ball combination. They've got to do more than just let Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dominate the points total. I thought Chet Holmgren had a really shaky game overall. Don't get me wrong, the fourth quarter was his best quarter. He was much better in the fourth. But overall for me, compared to usual or compared to other players on the court, for me, I think he had a shaky game compared to usual. I think that, for me, I just think there was a real shaky period, especially in that first half. Third quarter, it got a little bit better. Fourth quarter was his best quarter by a clear mile, in my opinion. But Holmgren cannot start off that shaky because it just puts everything on the back foot. And one thing I'll say about Dallas later on, and I'll say this about Thunder going into game 4, your offensive attitude and your defensive attitude are linked together. If your offensive attitude sucks, your defensive attitude is going to suffer in the long term during that game as the game wears on. And for me, that's one of my biggest worries about Oklahoma going into game 4. Get the offensive nailed down, get the 3-ball combination sorted, and get that. And that means your defensive attitude is going to feel a hell of a lot better, and your offensive attitude is going to be vastly improved. So these are the final 4 games of the series. So obviously on the 14th of May, it's away to Dallas again, 2:30 a.m. UK time. Obviously, you can watch it all on TNT Sports here in the UK. If you're in America, you can watch it on TNT, I think NBC, obviously NBA TV as well. So then they go to home. They go back to Oklahoma for the next game on the 16th of May, again, 2:30 in the morning in the UK. Obviously, on the 19th, they go away again to Dallas, 1:30 in the UK this time. And if there is a game 7, it will be the 21st at Oklahoma, again, 1:30 a.m. UK time. That is potentially if there is a game 7. Oklahoma, for me, had a really good opportunity. They missed opportunities to win the game, but they just couldn't maintain that rhythm in that second half overall. And Dallas took control. So Oklahoma just need to get the 3-ball combination sorted, get the attacking offense sorted more consistently in the second half of the game, and make sure Chet has more involvement and make sure he's not getting off to a shaky start, because as soon as he starts off shaky, there's a potential back foot opportunity at the start of this game which could transfer to the second half of the game for Oklahoma. But for me, Oklahoma have got the ingredients to tie this series again. They just need to get better overall. So let's talk about the winners. Let's talk about Dallas. For me, their offense had a shaky start. For me, I think that the Mavericks had an average offense, if I'm being brutally honest overall. I think there's one particular player which we'll highlight later in this video who dominated the points for Dallas and for me had the best game of the lot from both teams. We'll talk about him in a sec. But Dallas, for me, had a shaky start. They had to really grow into the game. They were dominated into the paint in the second quarter, just like I said about Oklahoma. For me, I think they grew into it. They realized what was at stake. And then in the second half, they kind of just really improved from there. For me, the big problem with Dallas was, first of all, before Irving completely took control in that second half, especially the third and fourth quarter, especially the fourth quarter. Um, before Irving took over in that fourth quarter, he had a shaky game. I thought some of his offense could have been better. There was times where he could have shot and he didn't. And I think for a Mavericks fan, it must have been really, frustrating from that point of view. For me, though, I think Doncic, to be fair to him, did improve as the game wore on, but especially at the start of the game, and you could say throughout the game, he was, no disrespect to Doncic, because I do respect him, but it was very moany. And to some extent, I get it. It was whiny, and to some extent, I get it, because some of the referees' calls could have been made better. I do get where the referees' calls were coming from somewhat, because, let's talk about the referees a second. The referee for me let a lot of things go. And for me, there was calls that could have been made better. But at the same time, you can understand half of it because he wants to let the game flow, wants to keep it going, and doesn't want to make it stop-start. And for me, I think that benefited the Mavericks more than the Thunder. I think the Thunder kind of wanted that stop-start. I'm not saying they wanted it, but I think stop-start kind of works for them. I think it works for their build-up play and their offense. So for me, it kind of felt like the Mavericks were really taking advantage of the fact that it was a free-flowing game. The referee wasn't stopping it as much as he maybe could have done. But Doncic, for me, was quite whiny, especially in the first couple of quarters and throughout the rest of the game. I felt like he was saying a lot of things to the referee that maybe could that kind of went unpunished. Because, back chat to the referees in the NBA, do not go unnoticed. That will go a long way. There was one particular moment, 8 or so minutes into one of the first 2 quarters, where there was he lost the ball and it kind of tantrumed a bit, and they were still playing. Oklahoma was countering. I think they got the basket in the end. Again, and I mean this not disrespectfully to Luka Doncic, no disrespect to Doncic, But the way he reacted in that moment, the way he tantrumed after losing that ball on the transition from Oklahoma was childish and somewhat disgusting. I think as a professional player, as an MVP, you should be playing to the whistle. If you lose the ball, don't do a tantrum like a child. Work hard, think hard. I know you're upset about the referees. I know you're frustrated about some of the decisions. But you, as an MVP, as an experienced MVP in the past, you if you get beaten on the transition, if you get the ball taken off you on transition, don't tantrum for 2 seconds before running back. You run straight back. You sprint back and you win that ball back. Because every second you tantrum and moan before you run back is precious seconds. Doncic could have run straight there and bam, got the block. But no, he tantrumed for 2 seconds. He lost his man, lost his run. It was a clear run, and he worked his way through for the basket in Oklahoma's favor. Doncic, for me, didn't need to do that as a professional. I get the frustration. I get the anger towards the officiating at times because there were some frustrating calls. I'll admit that, and the referee did make some controversial calls. But again, you can understand it half right by letting the game flow more than it could have done. So for me, Doncic just needs to play to the whistle, be a professional, and just put it to the back of your mind because it was clear very early into this game, from both points of view, it was going to be a physical encounter, and Doncic's going to have a lot to do. So, and for me, Doncic was kept quite isolated in the first couple of quarters. I thought he got some points here and there, but for me, he just kind of, I think Thunder really isolated him and Irving a lot in the first quarter, especially. Then Doncic kind of came alive. Irving absolutely came alive in the second quarter, especially the second half, sorry, especially in the fourth quarter. But there's one particular player before we move on to what both teams need to do in game four that I want to highlight, and that is the MVP of this game, PJ Washington. PJ Washington had a stunner of a game. 40 minutes played, 27 points, 55% two-pointer percentage, 42% three-pointer percentage, 48% field goal percentage, and 6 rebounds. And you can see his overall shot map there on the screen. Washington was on fire. I mean, Washington, he was delivering serious capital punishment on Oklahoma's defense. He was just on fire. He was amazing. And the way he drives, the way he moves, the way he floats in between, the way he slams it down, the way he gets into great attacking positions, the way he works through people. It doesn't work around him, they work through him. And he gets in the right areas and does the right thing. And you know what? I know some Mavericks fans are quite critical of Derek Lively II off the bench as well. But there were moments between him and Lively II. It got to a point where some really wonderful guy on social media, when I spoke about Lively II being a major difference off the bench with Washington, especially with Washington, was kind of unsure about that opinion. But then he apologized and said, fair play. So, respect to that guy because, not a lot of people would apologize for getting an opinion wrong or anything like that. It's everyone's opinions, it's freedom of speech, but fair play to the guy. I've got a lot of respect for fans like that. Even if you don't apologize, even if you respect people's opinions, I've got a lot of respect for you. So, for me, respect to that guy. If you do watch this video, then please say hi in the comments because, I respect you a lot, bro. But yeah, PJ Washington for me had a great game. He was on fire. He was an elite threat. And Dallas are going to need him. They're going to need Doncic and Irving in the first quarter as well as the second. But for me, they need PJ Washington on point for the remainder of this series if they're going to stand any chance of getting in to the next round. So what is next for both teams? Well, I think the answer is fairly simple. Win at all costs. If you can pick one main disadvantage for both teams in terms of what they need to do to improve, I think the Mavericks' offense in the first half needs to be seriously looked at. I think there needs to be a lot more fight, a lot more energy, a lot more, intelligence as well. I think Oklahoma beat them on the IQ on the offense in the first half. Across the two quarters for me, especially on the paint. They've really got to sort out the paint situation at Dallas because in that second quarter, especially, they were getting absolutely annihilated in that particular frame. So for me, defending the paint, attacking the paint needs to be seriously looked at. Um, and for me, I think Dallas just need to keep that offense going in the first two quarters and make sure they not use up all their energy in one particular burst. I think the best thing to do is reserve some of your energy, but also keep the offense up to a certain standard. For Oklahoma, like I said earlier, it's the three ball combination. It's not letting Shy Gilius Alexander do everything. I think that Isaiah Joe's offense off the bench will become another instant impact in the next game. I think there's a real opportunity for Oklahoma to really get back at Dallas. It's going to be a tight one. I think throughout the whole game I could see it was going to be quite a tight offense. So very, very end to end. So for me, I think that Dallas just needs to improve that offense and defending the paint in the first quarter to really get a control and grip of the game. Oklahoma, for me, need that three ball combination to work more effectively. They need to spread the attacking of offense and awareness across more than just Gilius Alexander. And I think Isaiah Joe's impact off the bench will prove costly. So thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. By the way, Holmgren, Chet Holmgren needs to improve because the fourth quarter was his best quarter and it was good, but overall needs to improve. So if they can get him to improve as well in the center, then Oklahoma have a chance to tie the series on the 14th. So thank you very much for watching this review. Make sure you do stay tuned for more content. We do have another review coming today from the Manchester United Arsenal game in the Premier League, so stay tuned for that. And for now, I am the CHALL. Ta-ra for now, and that is full time.